Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to CARICUK Fortnight, which is a series of 4 events that we're going to hold online over the next 2 weeks. So my name is Dr. Pat Not-Solo. I'm an associate professor at the University of Birmingham in the UK. I'm part of a team, or I lead the team.
Sorry, Pat, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you too.
Okay, it's just me. Continue. So sorry.
You can hear me, can you? Okay, all right. As long as people can hear me, that's fine. So yes, so as I was saying, I'm Dr. Pat Not-Solo from the University of Birmingham in the UK. I'm the principal investigator on CARICUK, which stands for Creative Approaches to Race and Insecurity in the Caribbean and the UK. We're a project that's been funded by the Arts and Humanities Research Council in the UK, and we've been running since February 2021. We're a year-long project, so we're coming towards the end of what's been a really great project to be part of. So there's been myself, Dr. Tiamani Kuzor has been the postdoctoral researcher on the project, and Rita Gale has been the postgraduate researcher on the project. So the 3 of us have been the CARICUK team. It's very unusual in the UK context for 3 Black women to be running an academic project. And that in itself has been really exciting. Our team meetings have been great, you know, kind of affinity and a way of speaking with each other has been great. But we also have connected with very many people during the project. Creative practitioners who have made films for us and curated exhibitions and done original installations. If you haven't been to our website yet, caricuk.co.uk, do have a look. You know, everything that we've been doing this year is on there in various shapes and sizes and forms. You can see that we've been really busy. We've also created a learning pack for schools in partnership with the Royal Geographical Society and the Geographical Association. So we're trying to do some creative practice and to speak as Black people, to have a site of enunciation, if you like, and I see CARICUK in that way. And what we're going to talk about today, Rita's zine, is very much about that, about our voices. But the other thing that we want to do is to start or to continue a kind of politics of transformation in terms of the institutions in which we're working and the kind of academic practices in which we're all caught up. And so these 4 events are about the project, but they're also about how we can exist and can continue and can intervene and change ourselves, transform things within these institutions that we're part of. So this first conversation is very much about that voice, and I hope that that will set the tone for the other 3 events that are coming in the next week. Just to briefly mention the sort of shape of the thing that we've got today, this event and the events that will follow. This event, the first event, has the same shape as the others in that there is the 3 of us as a team, and one of us will always be kind of leading the event. But then there's also a curated audience of people that we've invited to join in with the discussion on Zoom, so that we can have, you know, faces and voices in discussion. And then there's also, I want to welcome the larger YouTube audience who are listening to the live stream, and also the ones who will listen to the recording or watch the recording of this event. You're all very welcome. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Rita Gale, who is going to tell you a little bit more about the Global Black Geographies zine. Rita.
Thank you, Pat.
It's okay.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. I want to welcome you to the launch of the Global Black Geographies zine website, I want to emphasize that it's a prototype website, and this is very much in that keeping of being a beautiful experiment. And I'm pleased to see, I'm looking around, I'm pleased to see that we have many of the contributors here on the live Zoom. So I want to thank them, and they'll be introduced shortly. So a little bit about I guess, how this came about. I'm a member of a network of scholars, early career scholars, who are of African heritage, who are based around the world. And we came together in 2019 and formed a group, a network called Global Black Geographies. We're interested in the diversity of Black experiences around the world, both, of course, in the global North, but also crucially in the global South. And what we're attempting to do is to sort of bring all of those voices together and to find a way of discussing our identities in the 21st century in the round, and not in the silos within certain hierarchies of academic experience as we appear to have now. So that's, in essence, we'll talk a little bit more about it in the audience Q&A, where we'll bring in two of the members of that network who've been very important, Agostino Pinnock and Victoria Koye, who I know will be joining in on that. So we'll talk more about that then. So what we want to do now, we'll have sections of conversation. And what I thought would be useful was to bring in participants, contributors to the website who worked in particular areas, so that we can sort of have a roundtable conversation. And so at this point, what I'm going to talk you through is the fields that we're going to discuss. So we're going to start off with a small conversation, short conversation with the contributors who are here on this Zoom. So these are persons who actually contributed an article. So they wrote an article which is published on the website, which I hope you've all had an opportunity to have a look at. So I'll bring them on board soon. Will then be followed by a roundtable conversation with the team who worked on the translation. So what you'll notice about the Zine website, if you've had an opportunity to go onto it, one of the crucial things that Global Black Geographies Network and certainly the Zine wanted to begin to do is have this conversation about language and about translation, and finding ways to position other languages other than English on the page. So you'll see each of the articles have been translated into 4 languages: English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. And so we'll have a conversation with the translators who specifically translated the work into French, Portuguese, and Spanish here to talk about the politics of translation. We'll then talk to the web designer who obviously, you know, in conversation with myself, kind of created this brilliant prototype website, and to talk about a little bit about that. And then we're going to open it up to the wider conversation. So bringing in obviously Patricia, Tia Monique, Agostino, Victoria, and also yourselves, wherever you are, if you're watching this live stream on YouTube, obviously our invited guests here on this Zoom, and also if you're on Twitter, if you have some questions, you can tweet at CARIC, CARIC UK, and we'll pick those up as well. So I'm going to open it up now, if I may, to the contributors to the article. I can see a few of you there, Nathaniel. I know you're with you. If you could turn on your camera, please. Lena, if you're comfortable, if you could turn on your camera, please. I know you're here at the present time. And Nelly, if you could turn on your camera, please. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay. Right, we'll begin, I think. I think we should just jump right in. So, Lena and Lombe, thank you so much. Lena, do you want to kick us off?
No. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here. I wrote a piece with my amazing cousin, Christian Lukumi, who is also here. And that was great to contribute, and hope we can have a lovely conversation tonight and expand on some issues that we cannot get from the website. So we are going to be playing with the English and Spanish, and this is part of the Global Black Geography. So
That's
welcome,
right.
everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Christian, thank you. I didn't see you. Forgive me. Forgive me.
Sorry.
That's
Yeah,
all right.
no,
That's
no.
all right.
Yeah,
So
thank
if you
you,
could
thank you,
just
thank you.
thank you. If you could just say a little bit about kind of, I guess, the article you wrote together. Okay. I know you're going to be brief
Okay.
because, you know, that's what I'm about, right? I'm about quick, concise. Yeah. You know, I don't do the long
Okay.
thing. Yeah. You know what I'm about. Okay. So, but no, if we could talk briefly, of course, about the work that you did together on the website.
Maybe Christian is going to introduce himself, and I'm gonna be doing the translation, if that is okay.
That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Hi, everyone. I am very, very happy to be a part of this space. Many thanks to the organizers for inviting me. I speak a little bit English. I am trying to do, but my name is Christian Lucumi. I am from Cali, Colombia. I am social communicator and journalist, and I am currently doing a master's degree in audiovisual creation for digital age in space. That was good.
Yeah.
Okay, referring to the name of this webinar, I will do my intervention in Spanish, and my article partner, Lina Lucumi, will help me with the translation, okay? It's okay, no problem. Okay,
Yeah.
Hicimos un ensayo fotográfico en el que queríamos desafiar la narrativa hegemónica de ser mujer, negra y agricultora.
So we did an photographic essay in which we wanted to challenge this idea of being a Black woman in Latin America, particularly in Colombia, and a farmer.
Yeah, las imágenes datan de la fecha o son del año 2021 y fueron tomadas durante un día normal de trabajo con la actual agricultora o cacharrera Olga Aponza.
So the picture was taken last year during a normal day of work for these women, cacharrera, and we wanted you to looking at this political identity, cacharrera, that we didn't want it to translate into English. So this is the name in Spanish. And the name of this farmer that we want to embrace and bring to the table is Olga Aponza. So I think, Rita, we cannot expand on this, right? So
We'll expand on this in a little while, yeah? So
okay.
Just hold that thought. So Lombe, I don't know if you're still with us.
Hi.
Hey, good evening.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, everyone.
So we wanted you to talk, obviously, briefly, a little bit about your article, the inspiration for it.
Thank you. So I currently live in Lusaka, which is the biggest city in Zambia. And so that involves a lot of driving around to get to the different places. And so as you drive, you see all these different billboards or banners and all the sort of visuals of the city and the streets that you sort of go along. And so it's sort of
You've just broken up a little bit, Lombe, so it may be useful for you to switch
Just
off your
struck me that,
camera. Sorry, Lombe, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, you start again.
yeah. So I live in Lusaka, which is a main city in Zambia, and space-wise, how we navigate it, or at least how I navigate it, involves a lot of driving from one place to the other. And so what is most visible along those roads and streets are things to do with the retail of phone communication credit, or adverts and billboards, and all of those things, including billboards for political persons as elections are coming up. But more and more frequently now, we're seeing billboards that are advertising betting. So I thought, okay, this is interesting. And then it made me also notice it every time I was like, listen to the radio or watch TV. And also the communication companies sort of push this unsolicited messaging that comes to your phone. You get a text message every other day encouraging you, inviting you to bet, you can win this, you can win that. And so I got interested in that and wanted to see what that connection is to sport, and to then think about it in terms of the city itself and what that means for the conditions in which people live.
Wow. Okay. So thank you for that introduction. I'll say to the audience, those of you who are listening, either on or watching on YouTube and also in the Zoom, obviously as you're listening to this, and hopefully you've all had an opportunity to briefly look at the website. If you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat, and we'll work through those and bring those to the contributors in due course. Okay. So I just thought I just note that. So Nelly, I'm going to come to you next. Thank you so much, Lombe. And then Nathaniel, of course, last but not least, I'll come to you next after Nelly, okay? Good evening, Nelly.
Hi, all. Good evening. So nice to be here. Well, thank you so much for setting this up, Rita. I mean, you are...
I didn't set it up. It's a team effort. Patricia and Tia Monique are doing the heavy lifting. I get to do the fun stuff tonight.
I remember because you reached out to me and I was like, oh my God, how do I even contribute to this? But I'm happy just seeing everything work out. It's really amazing. And I'm super proud of the work that you guys are doing. It's so amazing. So briefly, I'll just talk about myself. My name is Nelly Ating. I'm a Nigerian. And my article was an inspiration drawn from my personal experience as being a first-time migrant moving to the UK from Nigeria for the first time after years of prayers. And having that experience and suddenly realizing that I was really in a society where there were so many white people, and I didn't see it when I was praying to God for this opportunity.
Yeah.
And definitely adjusting, and I took a step back and really started noticing the diasporan culture and tracing it back to my identity, my birthplace, Calabar, and its roots in the transatlantic slavery. So that's why I began really digging deep and asking questions, and also starting a passion project that I started in 2019 on Nigerian migrants who were looking for greener pasture. And what I've really been asking myself, is there anything like greener pasture for Africans trying to migrate? Because that idea doesn't exist. So thank you for having me today.
We'll definitely come back to that. You've raised some interesting issues there. Thank you so much. Thank you. If you could just switch off your mic for a little bit. And Nathaniel, I'm going to come to you. I know you and I have worked together, I feel like a few times now. You know, we keep crossing paths, but you know, hey, you know, if it isn't broke, right? So you could just briefly introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about what inspired your photo work article for the zine. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you to Rita and the team. I just have to hail up GBG, Global Black Geographies, of course. You know, you guys took me in as an underwing. You know, I attended the conference. I left London. I was like, I need to get out of the city. Went to Birmingham, and here I was at this anticipating Black Futures conference way back when to work with you. I'm so grateful to be in community with such amazing artists. The website is amazing. I've been going through it today and checking out everyone's work. So thank you very much. And just to talk a bit about what inspired me for my piece, I guess it was contributing. I had a similar experience to Nelly, where it was like, oh my gosh, what can I contribute to something so thematic for me, so thematically relevant, talking global Black geography as well. So I was thinking, I want to do something that's more kind of everyday and something that's on the ground. I was thinking vernacular wise, what isn't more Black geographies thematically in the day-to-day than like the notion of fam/family and like the slang term use of the word fam. So I was thinking through a project that I'm working on now, so PhD research, where as well as the photography project I've been doing long term with a kinship group of Black millennials based in White City, West London. And what I've done with my piece was kind of write a photo essay, if you would, or visual essay you prefer, exploring how we use fam and how I can visualize that in homage of the kind of global Black geographic diasporic connections we have to the Caribbean, in homage to our mothers, our families, on the block, within our households, outside of the households, and what that looks like visually, using kind of curating photos from my own estate, as well as the estate of my peers, which are about 15 to 20 minutes apart. So that's kind of my piece. Do check out the website and enjoy. I'm looking forward to more conversations. Hopefully that's on time.
Yeah, no, listen, you did good. You did very good. Listen, Pat, I know you're here. Pat, I don't know if you could join us on this. In this, so we wanted to bring obviously the contributors that are here today. Thank you. I have to say, the website was published very late last night, so I had an opportunity to just, I know, I almost messaged you, Pat, but I resisted the temptation. I thought, you know what, you need to just relax and everything. But I just was really kind of a bit overwhelmed because, you know, the articles are just so vivid and so dynamic. And yeah, Pat, you know, I just wondered if you know, your initial thoughts are sort of just connecting with some of the articles.
Oh gosh, my mind was quite blown by it actually, because I didn't actually get to look at it until, because I saw it released at noon, and then I was visiting family, and then I kind of came to it, and I was like, oh, okay, I can see. So I was kind of looking at it. First of all, it's just that initial impression of just of color and movement and you know, pictures with words as well. You know, so I started off with reading the interview with Jovan Scott Lewis, and the kind of really interesting sort of dialogue that was going on there. And I actually read it rather than listen to it, because I knew I could listen to it. But I thought, let me see what it looks like, you know, what the ideas are first for me. And I think that it's really interesting that there's so many ways in, you know, different people will look at it differently. There's so many different ways in. So I started off with that dialogue, and then I realized that you could change the language, you know, that you could switch to sort of French and Portuguese and Spanish. I thought, well, that's exciting, you know, you might start off reading it thinking, well, I've got to read it in English, you know, and then you realize that, oh, wait, there's my language there. So I can, you know, switch over to a language I feel more comfortable with. Or I could switch between and think about how those different concepts are being expressed differently in different languages. I thought that's really exciting. And then the next thing I kind of realized that home page, you could scroll down, you know, so that there were a number of different articles that you could look at from the homepage. So I started off with, and I won't even try and pronounce Kateria. I started off with that, with the seeing that and the beautiful image that there is right at the beginning on the homepage. And that kind of pulled me in. The images really pulled me into that article. And then once I'd got my head around the idea of how to change the language, I was kind of like, okay, I can get into it, I can understand it, the words as well as the images. But the images really speak for themselves, I think, in that article, first of all. And they sort of transcend a lot of the issues around language, or how intimidated we might feel about, you know, there being lots of different languages. Actually, the images really just draw you right in there. So I saw that, and I saw Nathaniel. I'm familiar with Nathaniel's work, so I kind of like, okay, that's going to be photo images. So let me have a look at that as well. And so different, the kind of contrast between what the sort of verdant kind of images that we saw in the Kateria, and then London, you know, and kind of tower blocks and, you know, pavements, and it's kind of I think really, I was skimming through fairly quickly, but as you know, I read quite quickly. So I was kind of getting a sense of the concepts and things. But I was thinking, it's really the diversity of Black lives and experience, right? So by the time I got to sort of, I think Nelly's piece of we're thinking about kind of Nigerian immigration, and there's that lovely image of you kind of squatting in front of a doorway, and that sort of sense of, you know, I think with Nathaniel's, you've got Black people outside on the streets of London. Kacharia, I think there's most of the images are kind of sunshine and Black bodies in kind of thinking agriculture and, you know, lots of different kind of activities outside. And then you've got that really intimate space of Nelly's. That image in particular really struck me, of kind of crouching in front of a doorway with the light coming through. And just that feeling that, yeah, what do we mean by home, and what do those home spaces, those intimate spaces, what do they mean when you have to travel, when you're on the move? So yeah, lots of really, really interesting ideas. And then Lombe's was all about there was a few images in that piece and lots of kind of text about those sorts of lives. There was a lovely kind of phrase at the end that was about kind of people's livelihoods depending on betting on hockey matches that are not even in the country that they're living in. And I thought all of that really interesting sorts of sets of expanding spatialities. So yeah, I've still got to dwell with it. I've got to dwell with it, and you haven't given me time to dwell with it. And you know,
No, but this is a good thing though. You know, you can, it's a website that you can dip. I think all the articles are very rich. You kind of, you know, you dip in and you go back. So I've read the articles, but I keep rereading them and seeing different things that I missed before. And I'm thinking, I know these articles quite well, but I'm still missing things that I didn't see the first time. But I was wondering, with speaking with all the contributors, you know, obviously the articles have now been published, and people are seeing them in the context of the website. How does that feel now? I mean, the article being put there. And I'll come to you next, Tia Monique, if you have a comment to make. I just want to bring it back to the contributors. I don't know if someone wants to pick that up. One of the contributors who've already spoken. Anyone? Who's that? Who wants to speak? You're all very polite tonight. Come on, Lena. You got something to say?
No, Lombe.
Lombe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, hi. And thank you, everyone. And thank you, Pat, for all the lovely discussions and thoughts. I think what the Zine does really well, or at least what I feel seeing the article I contributed together with the other articles, is like a graphic or a visual presentation of what we try to do in Global Black Geographies, to sort of be global and to think outside of one location, which is predominantly Western or Northern, whatever the positionality is used to describe it. I think you like move from one place to another. So that sense of place and of space is constantly being challenged, and you're constantly feeling that that mobility. And also it's sort of
You just dropped out there, Lombe. Are you still with us?
At the same time is tied, because I would live with, before I cut out again, is even the connection between thinking about movement from Nigeria to the UK, and maybe there is elements of luck there. What then happens in that new city and how migrants make a life? So I think there's always opportunity for themes and what could happen. So I found it very great to see them together.
Yeah, thank you. Lena? Oh, sorry, Nelly, you had your hand up.
I think just looking at everything, I've gone through that website like more than 3 times. Like I've had it open all day and just, you know, immerse myself and just looking at it, because one of the things I've been looking at this year is how decolonization really works. And I can see that being immensely used in descriptions and also just visually encapsulating what every artist has put together on this page. And also the part of inclusivity. I see when you have those languages, it means that people, Black Africans who are from Portuguese, can actually look at this and connect with this work. So it does really bring me back to my own place as not just a Black woman, but also just connecting with people outside of my heritage, especially being Nigerian, and just also reading and seeing that we have shared experiences despite coming from different places. So like Nomba mentioned, like that space movement, I see it a lot and it makes me so proud. Let me say it, I'm so proud, so proud. And for once, I feel like I belong to a community.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Rita, would you mind if I just say one thing, which is that on the website, we can see all the contributors who's written the articles, but I think the contribution of Rita in having conceived of the project, I know it was part of Global Black Geographies and you're always giving the flowers to everybody else, but I just want to say that the kind of the process of bringing all that together, of having that vision and maintaining the vision and making it into reality, you know, by just bringing people together, working with everybody. I think that really needs saying, because a website like that, you see what's in front of you, but you don't see what's behind it. And I think Rita is the kind of power behind that website. Really important, I think, to mention that.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you. Tia Monique, if you have a comment, I'll come to Lena next, and then we'll transition to the next part of our session.
Yeah, I just want to say Azizat did put her hand up a while ago, so she's pinned down. So if you can I'll keep it very short and sweet to give her some space. But yeah, I kind of flicked through it quickly because I've been doing a lot of the tech stuff today and sorting things out. But I was just, this is so exciting, and I almost feel so emotional about seeing something like that, to see the different textures of Blackness and Black people inhabiting different spaces, represented in a way that you can tell comes from themselves. So seeing Nelly, I was so struck by the portrait of Nelly, like that intimacy as a first image to come into the website, for me was like, this is going to be something completely different, because to see a Black woman in a space which is typically European, very small and crowded and, you know, all shrouded, and then to see that intimate look, it was, to me, yeah, it just showed me that and told me that this was going to be something very special and intimate. And so I really, for me, the initial things that I was looking at were the pictures, to see, you know, the bananas, the kind of more tropical background, then to see, you know, Nathaniel's pictures and Corey's pictures of very typical British landscapes. I just think it's very, very special to see all the different textures, because I imagine in so many contexts that we're in, we're reduced to one kind of just black blur, and we're not. And I think it's really important that this is a space to see all those different textures.
Thank you. Azizat, forgive me, I didn't see your hand up, but if you'd like to make a comment.
Yeah, no worries. Like, fair. I was just gonna follow on from every thing that everyone said, and like, thanks, like, Dr. Tia Monique, just because last time, but this was ages ago, we met, like, that doctor wasn't quite there yet, but like, yeah, it's very satisfying, very satisfying. Yeah, no, I have loved looking at it. Like, I've loved looking at it. It's been incredibly satisfying to see what we can do when we try and gather in all of these different ways. And I know I say this about like another intervention series that Rita was also involved in, like creating, like around intimate Black geographies, Incontestable, which is like an intervention series somewhere else. Anyway, but the point is that I think, again, we're seeing the kind of care work that happens behind the scenes that actually also allows for a particular gathering to take place. Because that's what I appreciated when Pat was kind of like, you know, pointing us to the labor, Rita, that you had done. And I also know in another space, you know, Victoria was also like, well, we need to, let's give flowers back to Rita. for the work that's been done to try to like curate this type of space, you know? So that was really exciting to me, like thinking about like the kind of the work of organizing, the work of organizing risk taking as well, because we don't know where this can go. It's just, you know, it's trying something new. It's trying to connect across across different paths in new ways, which is super exciting. So that was just one. But second thing was around movement, which I was really excited by, because it felt like we were like across the different pieces that I've only been like dipping in and out of so far. There was like a different experiences of being on the move that I was also feeling, you know, and like working across global Black geographies to kind of imagine that. And what I think was also like striking about like Nelly's piece, that first image also took me out. But like what was striking was really this being stopped from moving in terms of the, you know, experiences in the embassy, but also then when you do move, like what does it mean for us to be constrained in these different ways? So I guess it just made me think about, yeah, like our different relationships to movement as well, our different experiences of being on the move. I know, yeah, Victoria is doing another session on mobility as well, but I also think about that in relation to like more of a disability justice perspective as well, like who can be on the move, who is kept on the move, and how is that like massively disabling in a COVID world. Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're gonna just I'm just conscious of time, and but we have kept aside more time at the end for our Q&A. So I just want to say that. So I want to thank all the contributors for now. And I wanted to bring in, of course, 3 other contributors, or I believe are all here today. Jess, Leslie, and Peter, if you are able to, if you could turn on your mics. And it's, I'm really glad that you're all here this evening. Thank you for your sensitive and careful translation work. And this is something new to me, of course. I only speak and write in one language, so I'm always fascinated by the work of translation. I know in the academies, it's a very problematic space and work. And so I want to thank you all for your care. And I wanted to just maybe open it up with you to discuss how your process in approaching translating this work. So maybe we'll start with yourself, Jess, if you're okay. We'll go to Leslie and then Peter to follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Hello, everyone. So my name is Jess, and I'm a translator and PhD student at the University of Birmingham. And my research aims to disrupt dominant discourses of identity, specifically race and gender, in Brazil and the Dominican Republic. So I focus on science fiction and speculative fiction, and I center predominantly on questions of Blackness and queerness and how they both intersect in those contexts. So I've done the translation of all of the articles into Spanish. And for me, the process of translation, it's as much about the translation of the cultural and the political and the historical contexts and the concepts as it is about language. And for me, that's one of the most beautiful parts of translation, both not only as a profession, but also as an art form in many ways. So for me, it's all about honing in on those concepts and how they can be translated into other languages and other cultures, and also how they shouldn't be translated. Because as we were saying before with cacharreras, there's concepts that you just don't translate. You know, that's such, there's a notion that's so ingrained in a particular culture, in a particular language, that you remove that and you lose so much. And so for me, it's as much about, you know, being, as you said, delicate and careful with the translation, and just making sure that those concepts really come across, you know, as well as they can, and sort of staying true to their form and to their nature. So for me, it was a very fulfilling process. And, you know, it's so heartwarming to be able to be part of almost like a family. I know that someone said earlier that it felt like the first time they've been part of a community. And it's a similar feel, really. And again, being able to bring, you know, such stunning content, you know, the colors, the textures, just really emotional content. Is, you know, I've been going through the website, and obviously I've translated the articles, so I've sort of connected with them on a, you know, deeper level. But yeah, it's just such a fulfilling experience. So thank you for the opportunity, Rita and Pat and Tia, Monique, and everyone else who's involved.
Thank you, Jess. Thank you. Thank you. You know, we'll talk a little bit more, but I wanted to bring in Leslie, if I may.
Yes. Hi.
Hi, Leslie. Yeah, it would be interesting to talk about your process, and also we had the pleasure of an introduction, of a formal introduction. So yeah, if you would talk about that and the work that you did on this side.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rita. Thank you, Patricia, Tia, and everybody, because this is a very, I think this is a very powerful moment, because you were saying earlier that this is very unheard of to see 3 Black women leading this kind of project. And personally, I live in Belgium, where I was born here, I studied here, everything, and this is just, you would never see something like this. So this is very, I'm very happy to be here, let's say that. Also, yeah, just wanted to speak about, so I translated the articles into French, and it's very interesting to me just to learn about these different realities, because obviously I'm interested in, and I have the chance to live in Brussels, where there are so many members of the African diaspora living here. So I have a lot of friends, and I'm able to meet people from, you know, so many different places. But there are still so many realities that I'm not aware of. Like you were talking just about the cachareras. You know, this is something that I would have never heard of, I think, if it weren't for this project. And this is one of the things that I love the most about translation, is just the ability to learn new things, to be confronted to different perspectives. And what I found very powerful was also to be able to include in some way the French-speaking audience and the French, that not, you know, the French-speaking part of the diaspora and Africa, because I feel like a lot of the times it's obviously for language reasons, it's maybe more difficult to connect. And so that was a very interesting part of the process for me. Now, as Jess was saying, obviously there are a lot of concepts that are very difficult to convey into French. So you would just have to explain them, but translating them exactly is difficult, and a lot of the meanings, etc., would be lost. But yeah, and also just to finish up, I'm very happy to see the faces and hear the voices of the contributors, because obviously translating your work was very, very interesting, and just seeing you and hearing you talk about your work is also very moving, I would say. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Thank you. Peter, welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for this opportunity to meet you all properly. It's a really great community I'm really happy to play, you know, a small part in with my translation. So I'm really grateful to be part of this. So Rita and I we conversed through Twitter and had a conversation about, you know, how we could go forward translating into Portuguese, and I found it a really interesting opportunity. I've just done for me, I'm just finishing off my PhD in Portuguese and Lusophone studies at Nottingham, but I've started to go more into teaching now. So I'm at Leeds and between Leeds and Nottingham at the moment. And some of the research that I've been doing kind of on the tail end of my PhD has been more, it's connected with contemporary Portugal and sort of anti-racism in terms of both politics and cultural production. So that it seemed like a really interesting kind of starting point for me with that postdoctoral stuff. So I just want to make kind of 3 points about what I found the most intriguing parts of translating into Portuguese. So the first dilemma was the variety of Portuguese, or the varieties that I might want to work with. So Portuguese is obviously a global language, but with a wide spread of varieties across different continents. And I was trying to kind of create some equilibrium in that. And a lot of, it would be very easy to kind of focus just on European Portuguese or just on Brazilian Portuguese. But I hope I've got I feel one of the comments that was made earlier about Portuguese speaking people in African countries being able to kind of connect with this, I feel slightly vindicated because I managed to achieve that balance in that Portuguese from Portugal is closer to in terms of standard Portuguese to the variety of Portuguese that's speaking, for example, in Mozambique and Angola. So I hope I managed to kind of do justice to that. The second point I would make about what I found really interesting is kind of creating the right degree of intimacy and informality in some of these texts. So I found the notion of forms of address really interesting. So, for example, in Lena's and Christian's text about the caixeiras, I found that dialogue with Lena and the woman on the bus who knew her mother, if I'm not mistaken, sort of having this conversation with her, and I decided I was going to use the form of address você, which is very commonly used in Brazil informally, but I thought in Portugal it's kind of used more. There's a slight kind of distance, but I thought I wouldn't use kind of the most formal way, because I think, hang on, there is a level of intimacy here. This woman knows Lena's mother, and I wanted to create that kind of intimacy. In one of the texts, I think it's Nathaniel's text, I wanted to use tu to create that sense of fam, that level of kind of almost. They talk about a family that goes beyond blood ties, and that level of kind of that closeness. So I use tu, which is kind of a more informal and closeness.
And point three.
Sorry.
And point three. Sorry, I'm just conscious of time, unfortunately, Peter.
The point three was about, it's just kind of tying in with what others were saying about intranslatability. So I think what was really interesting for me is when I would like, in some cases, I wanted to leave an original kind of expression, like pushing my files, for example. I wanted to leave that in the English and then have a kind of explanation rather than a translation. So I wanted to maintain that level. So we can talk about those things in a minute in more detail, but those are the kind of the three things that I found really exciting. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Actually, I think whilst I just want to welcome Jovan for joining us, I want to just also say, before I bring in Florence, who was the web designer and basically made this beautiful website, really. So I think we need to hear from Florence. But I want to say very much a good evening to Corey, who created this beautiful soundscape, musicscape. I love Corey's music, and he's a brilliant talent. And I hope you all have had a chance to listen to it. If you haven't, please go and listen to it. It's 3 beautiful tracks, which I feel really evoke the kind of emotions and thoughts and feelings. It's very embodiment of this edition of the zine. So if you haven't listened to it, please do. And I want to say thank you to Corey for participating in this project. So Florence, we've got to know each other quite well, haven't we, over these last few months? We kind of knew each other, but we didn't really, right? But we know each other now, right? So we're still smiling, so it's okay, right?
It's all good. Yeah.
So just tell us a little bit, of course, briefly. I know you will be brief, but about this process, about how you work, because you're a really creative web designer, and like, I'm not sure I was very good at explaining what I wanted. I knew what I wanted, but I couldn't always explain it. But you were so brilliant at interpreting all of this work, just maybe just expand a little bit on, if you can,
I think that just speaks to the power of fam, right? Because it's like, I remember when we first had our initial meetings and you were talking about the importance of language and language equality. And as someone who is like a critical and digital designer, I was like, how we decolonize the internet is a very real and pressing and urgent conversation. And I was just like, wow, like how has this happened? That like, it's a way of actually putting the theory and the ideas into actual practice. So yeah, honestly, it was just, I think it was a really interesting like occasion where it's like, you might say one concept and I'd say another concept, and then like we just like, yeah, this is what we mean, and every time it always met. And I'm just really happy as well that like you gave me the space as well, especially with the visual design, because like even with the color scheme, I wanted to do something that still kind of speaks to like Africanist like color schemes and thematics, but isn't like too cliched. And I wanted something that's still like kind of interesting and a bit weird. It's actually kind of a different approach to colors than that I would normally take. So even on that level, like this was a really great experimental just a great experience to experiment with. But then I think also on like the back end, like the structural bit of it has been really interesting as well. That challenge about how we decenter language. It really warms my heart to hear everyone saying so far that it's worked, the tabs and things. But like one of the things that's really revealed is how so much of our digital infrastructure is deeply colonized, right? And just is not flexible enough for that. So definitely that's one I've been saying to Rita, like, I can't wait to get back into this. I've been talking to like developers, we've been really chatting about, okay, how do we really properly like decenter language, and really how do we scale up for other languages, other ways of translating, other ways of showing different expressions, and like, even with sign languages, how can we bring that into this? So yeah, it's been really brilliant and really fun to be a part of. Yeah.
You're muted, Rita.
Sorry, I was going to bring you back in, Pat, before coming to Jovan, and just to say to everybody, I'm going to read some comments. We've got some YouTube comments, and we'll take questions. I think we want to just dive straight in, because obviously, those of us who were part of this experience, we've been kind of living with this for several months, for nearly a year on my part, and it's kind of I'm really excited to hear your comments really about what you think, and obviously just to ask questions of the contributors, because obviously they've all sort of written very personal, very intimate pieces, and obviously they're very interested to see. Obviously they've been talking to me a lot, but they'd be great to talk to the audience as well. So please forward your questions and comments. Pat.
Yeah, I'm thinking just in terms of making sure that everybody gets heard who wants to get heard. If you could raise your hand electronically, that would really help. In even the reactions line just at the bottom of the page, if you could use, if you click on reactions, you can raise your hand. If you could do that, that'd be really helpful. Then it kind of shuffles everybody around, so it makes sure that I can see you. Otherwise, if you want to put something in the chat, then Rita and Tia Monique and I will keep an eye on that while the conversation's going ahead.
Thank you, Pat. Just want to welcome Jovan Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
everybody. Good evening, good afternoon. It's
Yeah, is it afternoon where you are?
Not,
It's
not
still
quite
morning,
yet.
nearly.
Not
Okay.
quite yet. Yeah, we
Not
have
quite.
4 more minutes before noon.
Okay.
But it's lovely to be with you all today. And Rita, thanks for your invitation to take part in this really important project. There are a couple of things that I want to kind of just bring
briefly.
Briefly. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Please.
Listen. So the question of geography we've seen become really central to a whole series of analyses, right, across the social sciences and the humanities. Black geographies in particular has in many ways led this kind of, what we would in North America call a resurgence of geography. I know in the UK, geography is well established and leading a very happy life, though not unproblematically. But in the US, there's a whole history of the kind of attrition of geography as a field of study. So Black geographies in the US really is, driving the resurgence of geography as a kind of, mode of analysis. However, right, as we've seen with North American Black studies, right, that kind of scope of appreciation is similarly narrow. And so it's really important to kind of have this project, right, to kind of, really advance the kind of globality of Blackness, especially, in a political moment where I think, that globality is actually being challenged, right? In the US and in California specifically, you have a movement called the American Descendants of Slavery, who are arguing, right, in fact, that Blackness must be disaggregated. Blackness must become reinscribed into contemporary nationalist frameworks, right? That would make, the kind of diasporic project, completely, what we would call it, completely antithetical to what they're advancing as, a notion of Blackness. And so again, I'll end here. Putting forward this kind of project is really important because of both the intellectual and political movements that are afoot here in the US around the question of Blackness and geography. So again, thank you for, having me, take part in its, I guess, launch. And I'm really just, happy for what, is to come.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I felt very rushed, Rita.
No, listen, perfect. Less is always
long
more.
chatting thing is
Less is always
so,
more.
right.
Look, we had a
Okay.
long chat, and listen. Have a listen to that on the website. Actually, if you haven't already done so, it was a good conversation we had. I thought it was a good.
I enjoyed it.
That's good.
I personally won't dare listen to it again because the whole thing of listening to yourself. But anyway, it's fantastic, and just be so happy and proud of the work that you all have done. Pat, thank you so much for just helping to kind of guide this next generation of folks who are just gonna really just secure the work for the future.
Yes, so hopeful, right? So hopeful for
no, absolutely. I wish I was over there still. I forgot to try and find a work in England now. That has to be the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to bring you over.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah.
Watch this space, as they say.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to read some comments from our YouTube audience. So thank you. As we're bringing in Agostino and Victoria, we're going to bring you in shortly. If you could gather your thoughts. So I'm going to read some of the feedback comments from YouTube whilst you're preparing yourself. Comment from YouTube. Love this idea of not focusing on sticking to one language in the discussion and exploration of global geographies. Message here from April Louise. Thank you. The website project is beautiful, beautifully powerful. Well done all. And also from YouTube, this is amazing, and seeing different contexts, language, bringing this together. Thank you, Rita, for making us learn all the time, and all the Black geographers on this team. Thank you so much for that. Also from YouTube, lovely to have the website put into context. Beautiful work from the entire team. From YouTube, I think both Azizat and it says Francesca, I don't know if Francesca Sabande is here today. I've talked about the importance of not everything being legible to everyone there is such a valuable and is such a value in resisting translation in places where it becomes reductive, cannot give a true representation of the original. Yeah. I think I can't say any more on that. for now. So Agostino, I'll come to you next, Victoria, but Agostino, I know you would like to make some brief comments. Obviously, you know, I think this project, the website brings into so many, I guess, themes about, Black identities, aesthetics, what things look like, and the gaze, who's looking, who's commenting, and also obviously about geography as well. And so, yeah, Agostina, if you want to just start us off with some brief comments. I'm also obviously looking to see who puts their hands up, okay? I'm aware.
Sure, Rita. So first off, thank you so very much. And I just want to say a special big up to Pat, Tia, and yourself. I hear Javan saying that we should look for him over on this side of the pond. So, you know, Javan, we might have to hold you to those words. But I want to, in a sense, frame what I'm about to say in the context of the sort of excitement that I see in terms of the ways in which geography, and specifically these questions around the global, is being taken up in this part of the world. And I would want to say it's perhaps not an accident, because so many people from the former empire, I still believe it's the empire, have been congregating in these spaces or have been relating to people in these spaces. And so, you know, this kind of excitement, which this website, in a sense, is a small part of, you know, I feel in a way very privileged to be part of that. And the other point that I really want to make, really, Rita, if you'll allow me, is to historicize this work. And to say that in 2019, when we began discussing the Global Black Geographies, one of the things that we did was to have a reading group. And at the core of it, a very central part of the work that we were thinking of was how to relate to each other across these vast distances, but to, in a sense, be in community with each other and to be accountable to each other. And so I feel like, in a sense, what we're looking at with this website, Zine, is the sort of evolution and development of that. And I feel very, very privileged. I was just saying to Javan in private that I didn't contribute an article, and it wasn't because I didn't want to, but because I feel like my own emotional affect and thoughts as it relates to being in Britain as a Caribbean person, as a Jamaican, I feel like those are still very fresh and raw. And I don't know if 750 words would have necessarily allowed for that. But, you know, I look around this room and I see all of the contributors who were there at the very, very beginning when we started. We had 13 people, Rita. I don't know if you remember that. We had people from as far away as Senegal who were initially part of the opening discussion when we, you know, looked at Stuart Hall's work. And, you know, we kind of, you know, there's an attrition. But as I had said to Victoria, who will speak right after me, and I'm wrapping up right now, is that one of the things that I envisioned when we began this project and this journey was that we would have a sort of, the core group would have come together and would have stayed together. And I look around this room and I feel very heartened. And I want to just say a special thank you for, you know, in a sense, you know, taking so bold a decision to kind of just run with this, you know. And so, you know, and to say to persons looking on, lots more things are in store. Of course, we don't want to preempt anything, but I also want to thank Pat. You know, Pat, you know that you're such a centerpiece in this narrative. And so thank you for, godmothering, parenting us. We really feel very privileged to be in your company and be in community with you. And my last comment, really, it's a thank you. Also to James Essen, I see him here. And I want to just say, me personally, I have benefited tremendously from being in community with James. And I really just want to, in a sense, big up James Essen. I mean, he, in my opinion, is sometimes very reticent, perhaps more so than he needs to be. And so, you know, just to say, you know, James, in case you don't know this, a lot of Jamaicans have roots in Ghana. And so, you know, it is perhaps not surprising, therefore, the level of regard that I have for your scholarship, for your friendship, as well as for your support of this kind of important work. And I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Agostino. Yes, I definitely, you know, Pat, Patricia, you know, this Global Black Geographies website, the zine, was something in my mind from 2019 once Global Black Geographies was set up, but I never imagined that it could happen at this time. I thought maybe 3-4 years from now, this could be a possibility to start considering. And, you know, if it wasn't for you, Pat, for your encouragement, for your support and your diligence, then, you know, you've encouraged me to be ambitious, to continue to be ambitious and to continue to be brave. But you need support to be brave, you know, you need a team around you, people around you, community around you. This project could not have happened without Pat and Tia Monique in this journey. Impossible for it to have happened. And those of you who know the UK Academy, you know how true that is. But that's another conversation for another day. Victoria, if I could have some brief comments from you, thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. I will be very brief. I just was, you know, first of all, hi everyone, and thank you so much, Rita, Pat, Tia Monique. I've just been thinking a lot about these relations that exist between all of us, but also that come through within all of these pieces. You know, these pieces that we're reading, these pieces that we're watching, these pieces that we're listening to. You know, Lombe's piece about the social infrastructures of betting. Jovan talking about the sovereignty as an intellectual project. Speaking, you know, just to what you were just saying just now, Rita. There's a part in Nellie's piece toward the end that I think that this piece really, really resonated with me, but it's like, you know, where she writes that the African diaspora has been created and recreated, you know, and talking about these experiences of enslavement, multiple migrations. Corey talking about sharing spaces. I guess it just makes me think about all of these ways that our pasts, our presents, our futures are so deeply intertwined, but that it also becomes such a political and important project, a relational project. The ways that we are have always found ways to come together, to build things together, to imagine otherwise than what exists in front of us and all around us, and how important this creativity, this work, this care becomes to what we can make together. I've also been thinking a lot about, especially listening to all of you talking from the translators to the contributors. Thank you to the contributors. Florence, just thinking about how I feel like one thing that has still remained, maybe I missed it, but unsaid is sort of all of us, or many of us, are moving through or within the academy, different academies, and how things like this become necessary because of the institutional structuring of the academy and what is made possible or impossible, and how we are always trying to, again, find these relations and finding each other, right? Just this work of finding each other, which I think speaks to what this work of translation, this work of very careful translation makes possible, right? Very long ago, in it seems like another lifetime, I'd studied, I used to speak pretty good Spanish, not anymore, but it makes me think about how the work of the translation becomes a work of possible connections to other places where we have not yet been, but may like to go. And so I think that the ways in which this work, the things that this work make possible, I just think we can't underestimate that. As people who are moving within and through the academy, are struggling in the academy, or finding ways to sort of flourish, I think it's just, for me, it's just sort of a reflection on where are the spaces that we create to flourish? How is that itself a geography, right? The geography of this website, the effective potential of this website, the way that we are made to feel when we encounter and when we read and when we listen and when we watch. I'll stop there, but just, yeah, thank you for this work, and thank you for all of the work that all of you have put into this. I think, as Agustina was saying, you know, things sometimes we start from somewhere, do you know what I mean? And things become possible because of, I don't know, our efforts, our learning, our passion, our heart, what we're not getting in certain spaces that we create. So just thank you for all of that. Thank you for the time to share a little bit.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so
Can
much.
I just mention, Rita, that
yes,
in the
Aziza?
chat in the chat there's a really interesting rejoinder to what Victoria just said by Eliasana. She's contributed through YouTube. She says, this is an amazing project. Thank you for bringing it to me in my language, Spanish. It's so beautiful, and it has let me see my Colombian culture reflected with beauty and grace. She says, it's such a beautiful moment for me. The language is beautiful. If only I could speak French and Portuguese too, I would read it all over again. Thank you again. I really like that last comment. If only I could speak all of the languages, because, you know, those of us who switch kind of codes between different registers of language or different kind of dialects recognize that those express different aspects of who we are, right? So if you could speak different languages, you would approach it in different, the same website in different ways. I think that's a really interesting idea.
That is a really wonderful point, actually. So Aziza, I'm going to come back to you right now. And Marsha, I've seen your hand. I'll come to you next after Aziza has made a comment. Thank you, Aziza.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. This has been so beautiful. Yeah, I'm very satisfied to be in this space. You know, it's the dream, right? Like, it's what we've been dreaming for, and all of us have been dreaming in our different places. So one, Victoria, like, yeah, smashed it, but I have a lot of comments off of the back of it, just because I think, you know, both Jovan and like Agostinho were also talking to like the globality of what we're looking at here. But I also think that there's something about like the globality, as we're looking at the globality in a way that also allows us to tend to ourselves in more kind of expansive ways, right? To actually try and imagine a different reality, which requires us to like imagine care within for ourselves in a completely different way than this world would ever allow, you know? And so that's why I also appreciated like Rita. I mean, it was, you know, the kind of side note that you made around like, yeah, you need to be supported in being brave. You need to be supported in like taking risks or in trying to provide care to other people. There needs to be a care that we're holding for one another as well. And I think that's such an important part of the kind of sitting and working across these global Black geographies, is that like we're actually trying to imagine caring about like people who go far beyond the worlds that we currently exist within as well, you know? And that just feels like a really important part of the project as well. And not necessarily needing to find these people, but actually just settling into, no, we're everywhere, we're expansive. And we get to like enjoy and sit in the process, or sit in the possibility of that, you know? So yeah, just thank you so much for all the work that you guys have been doing. It's so satisfying.
Thank you so much. I just want to read a comment. Thank you, Shola. I've seen your comment. I'm really looking forward to watching this grow. Yeah, we all are. Well done, Rita. Thank you, Shola. And everyone who has worked so hard to build this wonderful resource, because it is truly totally a resource. Thank you. I think that's an important word, that it is a resource for the many. And so, Marsha, I'm going to come to you next because your hand is up. And Ronald, I've seen your hand. I'll come to you after Marsha.
Thanks so much, Rita. I'm really excited to be included in this launch. I wanted to make some remarks rather than to pose a question. I'm excited about the globality of this project and its approach through translation, especially when we think about translation as a kind of mapping that allows us to expand territory. I think it was so crucial to hear from the translators, you know, especially when you have Jess saying that there's some concepts that you don't translate, or, you know, Leslie saying that it's difficult to translate with any kind of exactness, or Peter talking about wanting to leave, certain content and to give an explanation rather than a translation. I think it would be interesting for this project to include the untranslatable as a methodology, as part of its design. It would be interesting to make the untranslatable visible, the untranslatable, the opaque, as something that is a key part of this project. Because I think, for example, we were talking about people being excited about coming onto the project and being able to read in their own language. But in a way that still leaves one siloed if they don't have access, to Spanish or to French or to Portuguese. And so I think it would be interesting to try to find a way for us to see, to be able to get that kind of behind the scenes and to be able to get that perspective from the translators, and to understand that there are gaps, that there's a lacuna sometimes when we're thinking about translating from one language to another, and how do we honor those gaps? How do we recognize those gaps, especially when we're thinking about being in the academy, when we're thinking about Black people and having to deal with epistemic silences and gaps. And so it's important that we think about those as key aspects of knowledge making and knowledge dissemination. So I think it'd be interesting to see this project really, unfold as it unfolds and develops, to think about ways that we can embrace the gaps and to make them visible, and to be a key part of scholarship that we continue to grapple with. So thank you so much to you and the team for what is a meaningful project.
Thank you so much, Marsha. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Ronald, I've seen your hand. I'm going to come to James next. So James, I'll come to you next after speaking to Ronald. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say congrats to everybody involved. This has been, a wonderful launch, and it's great to see this project. And one of the things I want to say is that oftentimes in the academy, we tend to talk about product, and I've really been heartened to see so much of the conversation today being about process, and sort of those questions of care. We've talked a lot about space and place, and about language, and I wondered if we might also talk and think with the question of temporality. And by this I mean in the spaces in which I work in academic publishing, there are ways in which we're structured by the periodical, right? There's a particular kind of temporal structure, whether it's the half-yearly publication or the quarterly publication. And it seems to me that this has the possibility for reorienting that. So I
agree.
I wanted to ask, how do you see this potentially unfolding, right, in terms of those temporalities of conversation that might be possible?
I think you've already answered the question. Yeah, yes. Yes is the answer. Of course, all of these things require resources and require time. And so, yes, and yes. And yes, and I guess I'm sort of probably revealing a little bit more than I probably anticipated, but I envisage this, that really at this time I'm a kind of caretaker for this particular time, right? But then you hand on the baton, right? Because often, and I think particularly growing up in the UK, often passing that baton, it can be very difficult. And so better to pass it sooner rather than later, right? So this is the idea, you pass it on. Part of the Global Black Geographies, we have to decenter the kind of problematic issues of Black studies and Black geographies in the academies, right? In the English-speaking academies. I'm part of the English-speaking academy. So, long-term, my kind of chairing this, or project managing this is not a sustainable model. So that has to move on. And so, but we have to start somewhere. This is a place to start. But we're, again, being part of a network, you work these things out together, right? How to move forward. It's not something, this is a collective conversation with the participants, and also the reading group I'm a part of, we talk together, and also with obviously my mentors who are here this evening, many of them are here this evening. We talk together about how as a community we can move this to the next stages. So that's my response to that. James.
Evening, everyone. I just wanted to say a big thank you to all of, and this is a truly remarkable project. I'm genuinely moved by what I've seen and heard, both this evening and also by looking at the website. And what I wanted to just impress on everybody that I think is very remarkable about this work is that you found a way to recognize our humanity. In so many walks of our life at the moment, Blackness is not recognized, let alone recognized for us being fully human. I think what this website and this project is doing in a fantastic way is recognizing our humanity, both at a global level, but also, at the everyday level, which I think is really beautiful. And also, just back to Peter's point, it's doing it in ways that the academic system currently doesn't allow us to do. So many times when I'm going through peer review, I'll put a quote in an article, and the reviewers will say to me, "Oh, can you change the wording? Can you basically make it sound like standard English?" And just Peter's point earlier on about allowing people to just be themselves, to recognize our humanity, even in the way we express ourselves, it might seem quite trivial, but it's actually incredibly powerful. And I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that, yeah, you've done something where we often talk about decolonizing this, decolonizing that. I feel like sometimes when I walk to a coffee shop and they say, "Do you want to decolonize your coffee?" That's where we've kind of got to. It's just such an everyday parlance, but you've actually really, really brought out for me a decolonial ethos in the work that you've done, and in such a beautiful and humane way. So that's what I wanted to say, Rita. But just a big thank you to everybody, and yeah, thank you for recognizing our humanity, because it doesn't happen enough. It's truly beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you, James. I don't even know if I can come back to that actually. I believe Kesawa, did you have your hand up? Forgive me. I know I'm going to come to you, Agostino. Kesawa,
I didn't have my hand up. I was grateful for the words of Marsha, and I was like clapping and being like, yes, for everything she said about what you did with the translation. Sorry, I should put my camera on. Thank you for the invite. Lots of people got more to say, but the translation work, fascinating. Looking forward to more conversations about that. And also, brilliant job. Lovely, lovely space. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Translation work. And I think, again, I want to thank Jess, Leslie, and Peter. I think sometimes translators are often hidden in this kind of process, right? And as part of a Global Black Geographies, that they are front and center and very much a key component in this process, really. Yeah, so thank you. Agostino.
Yeah, are you hearing me?
I am hearing you, yes.
Okay, brilliant. So, and very, very quickly, there's a word that keeps coming to me, and I was having a discussion earlier when we spoke, and it's pending. I listened to Aziza, and I listened to James, and I listened to Victoria, and I was listening many moons ago now to Dion Brand, this brilliant poet from Tobago, from Canada via Tobago. And she, in a presentation, she talked about the tending, the care, the sitting with each other in community. And I feel like I don't know. I'm sure this is not a deeply profound remark in any way, but I felt like that word came back to me as I was listening to this cross-talking. And I really just want to add 2 lines to that, to say that part of Marsha's point about the untranslatable is also sitting with the discomfort that comes in our own engagements with each other. And, we talk a lot about that, both of us, we talk a lot about that, and so in a sense, it's so exciting to me, in a sense, to hear snippets of that in all of the different ways that people have been talking about being in communities, sitting with each other, sitting with the discomfort of the untranslatable, the things that we feel that we sometimes can't really express very clearly, but the tending, how important it is to hear each other notwithstanding. So I just wanted to add that, and quite an insignificant point, but somehow Aziz that somehow prompted me to it just popped into my head, and I felt I needed to share that. Thank you. I'm going to shut up now. I promise you I won't say anything else after this.
Thank you so much, Agustina. Thank you. I just want to read a comment. I want to acknowledge Alice. Alice, good to see you, and congratulations on submitting your PhD. Congratulations on that, to be soon submitting. And you made a comment that you said, even in my research, it was hard to even translate some of the Shona, or is it Nedabili words into English, as literally it does not carry the same meaning. So I think this kind of conversation regarding translation is something that I feel we can expand upon, because it's often not discussed in this way, about how to apply these things in practice. And I think one of the things about Global Black Geography is what we're very focused on, and I'm very particularly focused on, but as a group, as a network, we're focused on it's in the doing, in our work. So Ziza, I'm going to come back to you briefly, and then I'm going to come to Pat, because we're getting to that time where we need to close out.
Well, then, if we don't have any time, I'm good.
No, we have time. You can say what you need to say.
No, I've actually been working with, it's no surprise that Agostinho and I have been working on the same word for quite a while, because this just constantly happens. But I've been working with and thinking about tending, and the different kind of tenses of that, right? So tending and tenderness, and like how those words sit together as well. And so, yeah, I think I was talking to my research mentor at Queen Mary, Alison Blunton. She looked up the kind of etymology of the word tending, and it was all about stretching. So I started thinking about how we might stretch our bodies into different realities through the kind of tending work that we do with one another. And I loved, everything that Marcia Pierce was saying around the opaqueness of translating, because it creates that space where the tending has to be active, right? It has to be in conversation with that which might not be legible, as well, with that which refuses legibility, because that's part of what the project of Blackness is. It's refusing to make ourselves legible to anyone else, and really choosing to stand in our own care. So I'm not sure where these thoughts are going, but they're just thoughts. Thank you, everyone.
No, thank you. So Pat, thank you very much for allowing me this platform this evening. I want to thank yourself and Tia Monique for your support in making this happen. And we're going to close out. I just want to say thank you to all the contributors and all the guests who've been here, both in this Zoom and also on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to see if there's any final comments. But people just repeating some of the quotes that people have been speaking, comments of James, Victoria, of course, Caesar, Azizat, Agostino. And Pat, I'm going to hand back to you as we close out and of this. It's been a pleasure, really, and an honor to start off this CARICUK UK fortnight finale. So we'll be in touch. Thank you to all the contributors. It's been an absolute honor and privilege to work with you. I'm very proud of the zine. I'm going to go back and look at it later on and in more detail. And Pat, I'll hand back to you.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're just stuck a little bit, Pat. Maybe if you turn your camera off.
Thank you for all the work you put in. And this was one of the things that makes
Pat, if you switch your camera off,
this kind of experiment that I've switched it on. Hi, am I frozen? Am I back?
You were frozen, but you're back now. If you just keep your camera off.
All right. I just wanted to really say that this is the first of the two beautiful experiments that we're having to kind of, as a really important part of CARICUK. Everything has been leading up to these really, which is about the future of academic careers. What sort of shape, if you give people autonomy to be creative and to create their own space within a project, what happens? What do they create? And so we'll see, this is the first of them, and we've seen that Rita and the group that she's working with have created something really beautiful, made it real, you know, made it tangible. And I think that that's a vision for the future. The next beautiful experiment we'll see is Tia Monique Uzor's beautiful film, which is going to premiere at the weekend, and then we'll see it, we'll talk about it next Tuesday, same place, same time. We also have another event on Friday. That's quite a practical thing where we're thinking about the university campus. How can universities really take hold of the failure to retain Black students? What do we do about that? What does it look like? So we're going to talk about that from 7 till 8:30 on Friday evening, this Friday coming. Tuesday, we have our next beautiful experiment. And then the following Friday is our big finale, where we really will reflect on Black academic futures. What do Black academic careers look like when they're given space, autonomy, freedom to create? So we hope that you'll stay with us. We hope that this will be a rolling conversation from event to event, so that it really builds and goes off the end into all sorts of other agendas. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much to those watching on YouTube and to those watching the recording. And we hope we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you so much. Safe journey, everybody.